This trip to Leiden via Delft was planned late in the day. We waited for a good weather forecast before saying go. It's a trip we've done a number of times before. In fact, the last time we did it was 2 years ago in the what we call the flash dash, because of its being last minute. In fact, the first film I ever made and put up on YouTube was called Rotterdam to Leiden, of that very trip. So first thing as you come out the port is to go eastwards and pedal over the Holland Canal.
No waving, John. Good.
And you turn down to the right and under it again towards Rosenberg. I speeded the film up in an attempt to look like the previous film that I'd made, the two films running parallel. From Rosenberg, we go across the River Shore on the Rosenberg to Maasluis ferry, a regular crossing for us. It costs you €1.40 per fietser, per cyclist. At Maasluis I thought we'd take a little bit of a detour, but Andy said no, that would only end in tears. So Andy went up one side of the basin, we went up the other. And it ended in not tears, just steps.
I hate it when he's right.
We tried taking a slightly different route to our usual route this time in an attempt to do a reconnaissance trip for next year's girls trip. We didn't want to get it wrong when there were girls with us. This is the Indigo Cafe at Scheeplouden. I'll not spell it. Gets quite a bit busier as you get towards the outskirts of the smoky metropolis that is Delft.
You're holding the job up, Dave. You're holding the job up.
Delft is lovely.
I'm sorry about him.
It's a bit like a Dutch York.
Yeah.
Great place for a day, maybe an afternoon, long afternoon.
He's obviously not professional like us.
Good place to have a look round. Certainly a good place to sit in the square of and have a beer. Shame the weather wasn't a bit brighter. A rare moment seeing Andy eating. Over the Oversteek Bridge, on the Prinsen route and along the Delft Bay.
The poetry in motion that is Andy Brown. This is what Andy Brown looks like when he's not eating.
We felt we should have a pancake each, even though the more than you can eat breakfast from the ferry hadn't actually worn off yet. It's just greed, really. The pancakes were a bit enormous. You never see very much litter or graffiti in Holland. Everybody seems to have respect for each other, more time, more patience. The car drivers certainly have a lot of patience for the cyclists, and I just wonder if that's because all of the car drivers are cyclists as well. On past Salamander Windmill, which is actually a wood sawing windmill originally, I believe.
You're actually overtaking the badge, John.
We stayed on the southern outskirts of Leiden in the Bastion Hotel. The staff were very nice. Andy not eating, looking natural. Again. We planned on having 2 nights in Leiden. The first one, we walked into town and had a mooch round. Past the chocolate shops. The centre of cafe culture in Leiden revolves around the triangular square called the Biestenmarkt or Biestenmarkt. And then the main thoroughfare was the Haarlemmerstraat. It's a pedestrian way. The second night we decided to just go in on the bus. We had our picture taken where we'd had it taken 2 years before, and we even sat in the same order. Later that night we went into another pub and tested ourselves to see if we could still make the rose disappear and reappear. Third day we had a lazy start and pedalled south again on a different route back to the ferry, and this one took us to Geertje, a cafe in the wilds, farm cafe, really nice, very sweet. Another few miles or so we pulled into a picnic spot by a lake to have our cheese and bread and red wine. But then John spotted the need for rescue. Some goose was attacking a young family, so John thought he would take on the goose, single-handed. John versus the goose. My money's on the goose. You wouldn't tangle with our John. Buff.
What is buff?
The goose didn't give up though. He was pretty damn persistent. Bread. Notice the beautifully cinematic footage here of the boys turning the wrong way. Crystal Tips, we found her on the outskirts of Delft. I mean, you can't pass Delft town centre without actually stopping and having a beer, can you? It really is a lovely place. What really makes it on these trips, though, isn't necessarily the good weather, it's the good company. And these guys really are the biz. Don't tell them I said. We went along the side of a canal called the Vlaardingervaart, and we went across an odd little ferry, a peculiar ferry but very interesting, and it was the Trekshut ferry. But of course the ferry is always on the wrong side and you have to wind it back across towards you before you can get on. Once on board, you have to wind yourselves over. There are a number of ways you could possibly go back to the ship, all of which are just absolutely lovely.
Perfect picnic. Incredible. You were magnificent, John.
Enjoyed it, guys.
Andy was alright.
As always.
And as for Dave Pett,
Tried his best.
Back on the Maasluis to Rosenberg ferry. Another €1.50, €1.40 later, and back the usual way, but very pleasant way, back to the ship. One final spurt of energy up the loading ramp and into the ferry. My hero. Andy was a bit peckish by now, so we just saw whatever bite-ins on before tea. Thanks for watching, please give us a thumbs up, etc, etc. You know the score.